So the following is one of many different interviews I plan on doing with different people who have decided to full-time and why they're doing it. There are a myriad of different perspectives, and it's interesting when you look at them, not from the perspective of, oh, okay, all those people are the same, but actually delving into the way that people have actually leveraged the lifestyle of being in an RV to basically, in this interview's instance, for example, to heal. And there's others who are doing it for economic reasons, but there's also this total exploration of life itself, life philosophies, life spirituality, any number of reasons to reconnect with who we are on this planet. So I think it's important to weave together the perspective of a regular RV and the lifestyle from its myriad of perspectives. So this first interview is me delving into that with one person, and this person wants to do voice only because they don't want to have their face shown on the screen. So I hope you enjoy it. Be sure to give it a like so I can give you a lot more like it. Hey, this is Wyatt. I'm out at a nice RV park and ran into a gentleman who's full-timing. Just wanted to give some perspective on positive elements that go into full-timing. There's some people in the news who will kind of say otherwise, but there are people who also have intentionally gone into the lifestyle and seen benefits in their life. So I wanted to kind of give some framing of, different people in that element. So this will be one of the first interviews, actually the first interview that I'll do in that direction. We're just going to hear his voice. How did you get into the lifestyle to begin with?
Oops. I'm a software engineer by trade. I've been 27 years in the industry, worked for major corporations and government entities off and on for a long time. Working on like medical software for the county so they can help service the members of the county in their mental health needs, right? I felt like I've been contributing, I felt like I've been doing things, but I've kind of been on my own for a long time and stuck in that rut, kind of in this middle America tier work rut, right? Just stuck there, going to work, coming home, not really having a whole lot to do. My health was deteriorating a lot. So I didn't have a whole lot of option, and I felt stuck in that rut. And then as I started to kind of investigate alternatives to things that I could do instead of being stuck in that particular lifestyle, I ended up coming across a lot of van life content. And so I started doing some research on van lives and RV. And for me personally, with my health the way it was, I wasn't going to be able to get into a van. It was going to be way too mobile for me, way too small of a space. I needed to spend longer stretches of time resting than what I felt I could have done in a van. But that's sort of the lifestyle I thought would be cool, constantly on the go in all these beautiful places. And that's some of the content I was watching, is these videos of nature in places that I used to love being, and I wasn't going to anymore because of my deteriorating health and been caught in this loop of having to be to work every day. And for me, going on vacation, just go kind of sit somewhere or go to an amusement park was never entertaining. I wanted to just go be out in nature, and doing it alone can get boring. And so I never really went on vacations while I was working, and I was getting burned out. And so when I saw the reminder of these beautiful spaces, national parks and all this other stuff, I thought, you know what? I'm just done. I've been doing this 20-something years. I raised a daughter. I've been involved in everything else that's going on in the way society wants me to do things, and I'm tired of living this way. I need to do something else for me. And so the intent was to quit the job and sell the house. I bought this rig instead. I got rid of a Tesla that I had and got this Jeep instead because I can flat tow the Jeep. And this is all in investigating the lifestyle, where I decided for me the most appropriate thing was going to be a Class C because it's small enough and mobile enough, but it's also contained enough that I don't have to do a lot of setup like with a Toad. I had a lot more room to exist in it than in a van, which for my health was going to be useful. But I didn't want to get stuck with just the rig, and I've seen other people who are doing it with just a Class C, right, or just a Class A, and they don't have a Toad. But for me, I had the option, I had the ability to say, well, I want to have a car I can tow with it so that if I do go boondocking in the middle of nowhere in a national forest, 20 miles away from everything, that a week into it, if I need to go do laundry or go grocery shopping, I don't want to pack up a big old rig and drive it all the way into town. It makes sense to me to have a little vehicle for errands and for travel and investigating. So that's the setup I'm running, is a rig with a Toad. And what it's allowed me to do, I came out west for medication. I'm originally from the Midwest. And I couldn't medicate there, and that was part of a problem. And when I found a legal loophole back there that helped remind me that I can come out here and I can exist without dealing with all that crap, I came out here, I medicate, and I chase the beautiful weather. And right now I'm sitting on my front yard. I mean, if you look out this view I have, the guy doing the interview, he knows. He's like, holy shit, how'd you get this? Well, yeah, I agree. How did I get this one? I lucked out. There aren't a whole lot of beautiful spots like this in a lot of the campgrounds, but you can find them. And my intent was to boondock, to go find places like this on national park land. The issue I ran into for my personal journey was I was on a 4-day camp-to-camp membership, and that didn't give me enough time to spin down and rest and relax and get to a state where I felt I could go investigate in my Jeep and go look for places to boondock. And I was moving so often that became the pattern, that for the better part of a year, that's all I did. I did spend some time in Joshua Tree, 2 weeks at a time, and that was awesome. I spent last winter out in Quartzsite, boondocking for 2.5 months pretty much. A little bit in a campground once in a while, but once I was all set up, I was boondocking. I got 2 weeks out in Alabama Hills, and it was just amazing. Waking up every morning to a mountainous view, just like this lake view. I'm looking out over a 2-mile valley up these mountains with snow cover on them in June. And every day, this is what I would do. Get up and just watch this, which I haven't been able to do for decades. And so here I am, just chilling every opportunity I get, because I'm getting old. My body was going out on me. If I couldn't even do this, what would be the point? So here I am, at least doing what I can, and that has gotten more fresh air into me. It's gotten my lifestyle to slow down better. It's allowed me to focus a little bit more on my own well-being, and that started to improve my health some. I'm still far from where I want to be, but I'm getting into a state where I think I can actually start expanding on that in beneficial ways. Whereas just a year ago, when I couldn't stand for more than about 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes at a time, I was not in a position to work on fixing myself even further physically because I was too deteriorated. So starting this journey and having this time to rest and help my body start to recover from not being under all of that stress of that current societal loop in the screens, in the computers, dealing with people, having these meetings, it was just adding up, And I think for me personally, part of it was just me for decades. I've been single for 28 years now. Yeah. And I've been celibate for 16 years because I decided it just wasn't worth my time to deal with people with the headaches and how stupid they are and how much, you know what I mean? It's like not worth my time. So it got to be a lot over those years. Raised a daughter in there for part of it, right? She's an amazing girl. 33, married last year. Career, right? She is good. She's taken care of. She's taking care of herself. Her life is amazing. And the only job I had over that whole span was to make sure that happened. And it did. And so now I'm like, it's about me again. And so I'm out here just doing the best I can to catch my breath and to breathe in the things that I've been missing for so long.
So you've been basically how long full-timing?
A year.
A year. And in that
13 months.
13 months. And in that 13 months, have you seen you've seen serious improvements to your health and outlook and so on. You've been able to see more and do more. How has basically your choice in rig influenced that whole dynamic?
So I'm not as nimble, say, in a big Class C like this as people in the van life. And so that's sort of where, if you're looking to get into this whole lifestyle of walking away from modern culture, we'll call it, and you want to get back into a state where most of your time is more closely aligned with nature, going on hikes, going swimming, kayaking, biking, parasailing, whatever it is that you're doing that you can get to in your van, right? That rapid fire kind of thing. I can't do that in this big of a rig because I don't have the mobility.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned that. That's right.
If you're looking for that kind of life, you have that kind of physical capacity about you. I mean, if you're in your late 20s, early 30s, and you have the capacity to do it, that's an amazing thing to do, because that's when you have your health to do it, right?
Yeah.
And if you get caught in that rat race too long, like I was, and you let yourself get overstrained and overstressed, and you let your body start to fall apart because you're busy distracting yourself from whatever you're distracting yourself from, and that starts to deteriorate you.
Yeah.
And for me, it was partially the loneliness, but I felt I had obligations that kept me from being in certain circumstances. So I was willing to make that haul by myself, but it came with a cost.
Right.
So now I'm undoing that cost. And that's where my health is getting better. But I don't know that I'm ever going to be physically healthy enough now. I turned 55 a week and a half ago. I don't know that my health will ever recover enough that I can do things like jump on a mountain bike and go on a 10-mile bike trek. I don't know if I'm going to be doing that kind of lifestyle anymore. But I can go on hikes and I can do other kinds of adventuring as my health improves.
Right.
And while I'm medicated, I'm much more able to engage in those activities.
Yeah.
It's the actual mixing of the cannabinoids and the THC and everything else that all go together that at a certain level, the pain starts to change into something that isn't quite pain. I still have to be careful with what I do. I still can't overexert myself. But I stop being in so much pain that I can't stand up straight, and then I can go for walks.
Yeah.
Walks turns into being able to do more things. As long as I'm medicated, I can do it. And as my body gets stronger, I'll be able to do more. I don't plan on turning into a health nut at this stage. Maybe I will. I don't know. Right?
Yeah.
I am where I don't know where I'm going next. That's
Right.
the reason for the adventure. This Class C lets me do it in context of like these campgrounds, but it's a little more difficult to boondock. It's not impossible.
Right.
Part of it's me being lazy. There's apps out there and things that I could do it better with.
Well, Quartzsite was easy enough to boondock on because
absolutely.
you got all the wide open space and whatnot. But if you wanted to go to, well, Joshua Tree would have been all right.
Oh, yeah.
Still, you know.
There's other places. And then like Mammoth Lakes is a place I meant to go,
Right.
but I didn't get to drive up there. It was an hour and a half drive away from where I was in Alabama Hills, and I didn't quite have the gumption to spend all that time driving back and forth, so I didn't check it out. But apparently once you get up to Mammoth Lakes, you take a left and get onto the National Forest land, it's all this wide open pine area. It's BLM, just like down at Joshua Tree, from what I understand.
Yeah.
And I missed out because I didn't go because my rig is big enough that I was concerned that if I go down roads that I shouldn't while I'm towed, I can't back out.
Yeah.
If I don't scout first, I don't go.
Right.
In a van, if you're not towing, or even if you're in a smaller Class C and you don't care,
Yeah.
you can adventure in it.
Yeah.
I see people do it in truck campers all the time.
Right. Oh, no, those truck camps are
Right.
awesome for that.
So
Yeah.
there's ways to adventure in this lifestyle. My rig isn't quite conducive to that.
Gotcha. But
It's
you can
over
go
the
off, right? You can go off in the Jeep and definitely do some reconnaissance.
And because I have this particular setup, I've actually, when I was out in Quartzsite, went out for day trips in the Jeep in the desert.
Right.
It's a little, you're not on highways, you're not on roads. And so I didn't feel out of bounds being lightly medicated and driving around in the desert, per se.
Yeah, no, I gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
People four-wheel drunk all the time. I would never do that, right? And I wasn't gone like wasted driving. It was like just enough to let my back loosen up, and it's like, oh, let's go spend 4 hours driving down these mountain or these desert trails.
Right.
So I've been able to do some of that because of the way my setup is set up. And if I was only in the Class C, clearly I couldn't go down those trails in the desert.
Clearly, yeah.
So I'm getting some of the adventure stuff that I want. As my health improves, I'll probably do more. I've met a lot of people with the same sort of setup that I have, that they do go on day trips. They take their vehicle and they'll go to a trailhead and they'll spend 8 hours hiking some mountainous trailhead and then drive back home to wherever they're camping, whether it be in a campground or in a BLM.
Yeah, nice.
So I'm kind of in the middle. If I didn't have quite the flexibility I do right now, I'd be a lot more stuck and I don't think I'd be happy.
Right.
If I was in a much larger, like a 40-foot fifth wheel, I've seen people out in the desert dragging these 40, 50-foot fifth wheels.
No, I've seen that too, yeah.
It gets harder for them to get to the places I can go with this, even though I can't go all the places a van can. So I'm kind of in the middle.
Yep.
I'm on the top end of middle. I'd like to be on the lower end of middle. I've been debating whether or not I need something quite this big, and now that I'm feeling healthier. If I stick out here for a long time, I might change this up. Right? I might.
And what would you change?
I'm thinking maybe a Toad.
Okay.
Because now I can put the jacks down a little bit. I can get somewhere and I can do the slow activities I need to set it up without hurting myself.
Right.
And then I'm down to one engine to maintain instead of two.
Right. I gotcha.
And then I don't necessarily need to have a big pickup depending on what I do, depending on how big I go. I might be able to keep the Jeep.
Right.
So as time progresses, I may shift this up a little bit as I feel more physically capable of going more adventuring. But in this particular scenario I have, adventuring is still very feasible.
Yeah.
So I plan on tapping into that too.
So what about for the lifestyle? How has it contributed to your view of the culture and being able to, do you feel like it gives you a different perspective enough so that you can more intentionally choose what you want to do in life rather than falling into the defaults or doing, getting trapped in that? Or what ways has the lifestyle allowed you to see life in different ways? Like what's contributed to that, to your overall life philosophy and going from the corporate world to this is two very different worlds. So how do those, how have you been able to kind of weave those in your mind together?
So, the thing to remember is I've been single for 28 years. I've been on my own, living on my own, and I don't like people. So I was already isolated for a decade before COVID hit. When COVID hit, I was happy that first week that everyone started going home because I didn't feel the need at that point to stay isolated in my work environment. I was kind of isolated anyway in my own little area, so I wore my mask through the main area, and then I was by myself in a walled off area. All the rest of my coworkers were working from home, and I spent 2 months in the office completely by myself. It was silent. It was marvelous. And then one day I came in the front door and I was walking past one of the other people up front, and he kind of coughed in my general direction from 6 feet away. And I'm like, fuck this, I'm out. And so then I started working from home too. And I was absolutely thrilled from the standpoint of I would get up out of bed and I'd walk and sit down and start working 12 feet away from where I got up. And I didn't have to get ready. I didn't have to drive anywhere. I didn't have to contend with traffic or other, anything. I just sat down, did my job, was done, and I could just get up and walk around in the other room and sit down at my gaming computer and start playing video games. It was a perfection for me because that's the way I already wanted to exist. Having to drive into the office and then drive home from work was a waste of my time. It was frustrating. And that went away. So my life became kind of perfect for 2 years. Except my deteriorating physicality, right? And then the loneliness was kind of coming into it. And the world's spinning out of control. I tried leaving the U.S. in 2010. I was going to emigrate to New Zealand. That fell apart. That was right on the heels of Bush, and the whole world hated us then too. They're like, we don't want Americans in New Zealand. I'm like, fuck, don't you understand that I'm trying to leave there for a reason? So I have been kind of checked out of the bullshit that I've seen swirling thicker and thicker and thicker in our culture for decades. I've already been out of it. I've already just said no. I was on MySpace way back when MySpace was a thing, and most people don't remember it or don't even know about it. You have a lot of people watching this video like, MySpace, what? Go Google it, right?
Right. Yeah.
Everybody had Tim for a friend, right? You log in, hi, I'm your friend, I'm Tim. Get associated with this new technology.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden Facebook came. And then everyone's like, oh, let's all go on Facebook. And then it's all stupid shit. Hey, look what I'm having for lunch. And I'm like, I'm done. And I walked away. My daughter was 14 at the time. She started watching her friends on Facebook. But because I was constantly involved anytime she was around a computer, because I understood how bad the internet was for kids.
Yeah.
She started watching what her friends were doing and what they were saying and how their behaviors were changing. And she kept asking me about it. I'm like, yeah, they're no longer stuck in their lives. They're stuck in the screen and they're living out this bullshit in this screen. And that's the way they're starting to understand reality now, and they're going to lose their grip. This is bad for you, kid. She's like, yeah, these people are becoming crazy. I don't understand. I don't recognize these people I've been going to school with.
Huh.
How they look here is not how I know them.
Huh.
Yeah. Be who you are. Don't put on a show for people. Exist. She deleted her Facebook account at 14 years old, 15 years old, with all her high school friends blowing up on it. 2008. Facebook was out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I've always kind of been out of that. But because I was stuck having to maintain a house and have a job and all that stuff, and I got kind of stuck in that rut. And I was it's a nice town, but it's not a big town. It's a college town. Well, when you're 40-something years old, college students don't want you hanging out in their bars, right?
Right.
I don't want to be hanging out with college students anyway. So there's like not a whole lot to do there otherwise because it's mostly a family town.
Right.
So I'm a older-ish single guy in a college town where there's not much going on for my style of nightlife. I'd rather just sit and relax, you know. My party days are done. And I mean, I was just getting bored in that cycle. And if I'm going to be bored, why not be bored somewhere comfortable?
Right.
Where I was, it gets to be 85 degrees during the day and 80% humidity. You don't want to go outside. You're sweating like a pig.
Yeah.
I can sit here for hours and just be comfortable and relax and watch the birds and watch the tide come in and out. So I am back to where I want to be, mostly isolated by myself. And this is too busy for me in this campground. This drives me nuts. I would love to be completely isolated again, but then it's a little too long.
Right. But I mean, you could go back to Quartzsite though, you know. No, how come?
In this life, you'll find there are certain places that have certain cultures and vibes.
Yep.
And if you don't like cities, and if you don't like interpersonal politics with your neighbors, you don't want to go to a place like Quartzsite that has 250,000 people show up for the winter.
And more for January when they do the RV show and whatnot.
Well, like right now for October, I don't know if it's starting next week. They're doing a balloon thing down there.
Right.
Arizona.
Yeah, the huge, the balloon festival. Yeah.
Thousands, if not hundreds.
Tons of people go to that. Right. To see that, yeah.
Quartzsite is people hanging out. There are a lot of them waiting for those events and a lot of people just living the lifestyle, not necessarily because that's what they would absolutely prefer, but because it seems like it's the most practicable for them. It gives them some freedom and it's within their budgets, but they maybe would rather not be stuck having to constantly be moving and everything else. It's just the best way they can do the most advantage to their own life.
Sure.
For where they are.
Yep.
And so you'll end up sometimes, I mean, like with cities, people don't like the crime in the cities. Well, when you put 250,000 people together in a couple square mile area, it's a city.
Yeah, it is. It's a different sort of, and you've got people, with these really expensive vans, and then you have, some broken down rigs, and all in the same spot. And they seemed, for the most part, at least the one time I was there, seemed to get along, well enough, and actually bridge between them. So it's kind of cool.
But that's sort of the point. Is it depends on where you are and what day of the week it is, and who happens to be in what kind of mood and what events are getting together and who they've brought with them. It can change day to day.
Right.
And the part that concerns me is I heard of an incident first. Well, I guess secondhand. The people I was staying with were relating to me the incident they went through the day before I showed up with them. So the day before I get there, I'm being told this guy shows up threatening to shoot people because he's claiming they stole a bunch of shit from his rig. He was on meth or something, screaming and yelling a list of things that ended up with yesterday's newspaper that he was freaking out about in the desert, claiming to have a gun and he's going to shoot people. They called the police and the police came out and said, we can't help you. Until he actually starts shooting, we can't do anything. We don't have jurisdiction. This is federal land. You've got to wait for federal rangers to come. And they're not going to come out in the middle of Quartzsite in the middle of the night because some guy is threatening to shoot people. And so
that is interesting. Yeah.
They're going, well, what do we do? And the police are like, well, we can't do anything. And they said, wait, you can't do anything to interfere with any of us if life is not in danger. They said, correct. They said, so if we hook this van up to a truck and we drag it out of here and leave it on the highway, you won't do anything about that? They said, well, we can help you chain it up. So
jeez.
I am a little concerned about being in an environment where if things go slightly more sideways, people are getting shot.
Well, Arizona is known for its,
rambunctiousness.
Second Amendment state, so it's going to have people who are going to willing, to push back against it. So you won't have that. Just
part of the problem is I don't want to be in the middle of a shootout.
No, nobody does. Right. Nobody does. And
they have nothing else to do out in the desert.
Right.
Everybody sits around, well, not everybody. The vast majority of everybody I came across out in the desert sits around drinking from about 10:30, 11 in the morning until they finally pass out just after sunset.
I see. You're in a different crowd then, yeah.
So
I didn't get that experience but that was different. Everybody has a different experience. So it's all, like.
And like I say, I wasn't present for that. I heard about it. And when I was there, everything was mellow.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
I did have someone, at 3:00 in the morning, drive by, and I'm like, well, who drives by at 3:00 in the morning?
But
so
right?
Yeah.
These who live and exist there. Some of these folks, they're from not too far from Quartzsite. They're only 150, 250 miles from home.
Right.
So they're living out there for now, but they're still living. They still know places.
Yeah.
They go out and hang out with friends. They go to bars. They,
Yeah.
go to a potluck or some event, and they're coming home at 2 in the morning.
Yeah. So so do you feel like the lifestyle, though, has contributed overall pretty positively to your general well-being and like how you see life and where you're going next?
I mean, it's beneficial and positive. I've been doing it for a year, and technically I am not stuck doing this without an option.
Gotcha. Right.
I was going to abandon everything and put myself stuck here, but then things adjusted unexpectedly back home. So I'm here, but I'm not stuck here. And because that's in the back of my head, I get to evaluate every day whether or not I think this is working. For now, this is working. I'm able to spend plenty of time getting fresh air, resting, relaxing. You can hear the Zen music playing. It's just Zen music, right? Listening to nature. So I want to keep doing this for a while, at least, because it's letting me have that calm and peace, at least a lot of the time, that I'm looking for. At some point in the I don't know when future, right? I'm playing it by ear, and the long-term trajectory, if nothing else comes along, is I'll probably end up back home in the Midwest sometime in the next 6 months to a couple of years. And I'll just see what goes from there, right? I mean, right now I'm not focused on longevity or what I'll do to sustain myself.
Gotcha.
But over the course of the next 6 months to 2 years, I'm going to have to start trying to figure that out. And what that looks like, well, I don't know yet. I'm open to finding out what life is going to bring to me. That's the kind of, for me, the whole point of being here right now is, instead of being stuck in that loop, let's come out and see what life can do. Let's come out and see what opportunities may avail themselves to me when I'm not in this kind of closed loop I've been stuck in for decades.
Nice. Well, that's a good one to end on, and I really appreciate you, talking about your experience and helping people kind of provide a window into what some experience in the lifestyle, because there's all different types. So definitely thank you for that.
And I've seen I think I have a generalized understanding of the concern you might be sort of addressing, because
being stuck.
I've seen the full spectrum.
Yep.
There are folks who are at their wits' end, and this is all they have left, and they have nowhere else to go, and it's tragic.
Exactly.
And those folks could use some help and support, in my opinion.
Right.
They don't need to be shit on or looked down on or treated poorly, because this is all America has left them.
Right.
Because there's a lot of people stuck there. This is all they have left.
Yep.
And it's better than where some other people are stuck, but they're still stuck, and that's not good.
Yeah.
There are other people just like all over America who are doing a thing because they choose to try to experience life a certain way. And that has a whole spectrum on it too, of what they're trying to experience and why. And I'm just trying to be out here experiencing a chill vibe and resting and relaxing and reconnecting to nature, because I felt like I was so disconnected from it for so long.
And healing.
But not everybody needs to heal, and you don't have to be in a position where you're stuck or wanting to heal just to be out here, because this is still really nice stuff too. People have been camping for a long time. If you have the means, why not just camp, if that's what you like?
Yep.
And if it's not, then stay in your house and do your house things, or maybe go camping for a few months of the year and come back, right? I mean, I'm full-timing, but there are people who only full-time half the time, if that makes sense, right? So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of misconceptions out there, and there are a lot of different experiences happening for different reasons out here, and people should be aware of that.
Yep. Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot for watching, and be sure to subscribe. I'll have some more of these. Also, some informational, across the spectrum Still delving into all that the channel will have, but thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you next time.